Lately, I've felt a little disenchanted by technology, specifically my phone. Most days, I have a half an hour for lunch, and during those 30 minutes, I'll spend time scrolling. Sometimes, when I come home, I scroll even more. And I often feel as if I'm quite honestly on drugs, overstimulated. My eyeballs are sore. This has been a conversation going on for a while. We're all kind of over being addicted to our phones, but what are we doing about it? Okay? It's not even about trying to get off my phone at this point. It's about I'm actually so bored with the scroll. I've been bored regardless of whether I'm hooked or not. So lately I've been planning in these analog days. So I'm planning activities for myself, not necessarily like going out and doing things with friends type of things, although that's ideal. But for days when you don't have any plans, it's fantastic to plan little things in so you don't just scroll because you just have no hobbies and you have nothing else to do. And so you reach for your phone the first millisecond that you hit that boredom. So I've been actively engaging in analog experiences versus allowing my days to be so open that I scroll. So today I'll be talking about how I shape my analog days so that hopefully you can find some inspiration. The first main way I separate my analog days from my digital days is through the way I listen to music. And if you guys have listened to this podcast before, you know that I have a record player. Go listen to the episode where we listen to records together on a rainy day. It's very special. Um, I know everyone doesn't have a record player. Even a CD player would work. CD players are probably about half the cost as well as CDs themselves. It would be that bridge into digital from analog, but it gives you a similar experience. The reason I like records is because you can't skip the songs. You are forced to listen to the entire album, which is very nostalgic to me. As someone who was raised in the 90s to the 2000s, my family was still listening to records in the 90s. My parents were a little bit older, so they were raised on records, so I was brought up on records. And even listening to CDs, even though you could skip the songs, a lot of times I would play the entire album because I wanted to know the entire album and get the entire feeling for this art piece that the artist created versus on a listening app such as YouTube Music or Amazon Music or Spotify. You are hand selecting essentially, or the algorithm or the AI or whatever is selecting individual songs for you to listen to with no context. I am really falling back in love with listening to the full album. I feel like it deepens the intimacy of the experience you're having with the music. I also think it's better sound quality. There's something just sounding so much different when you listen to a record player. There's also the aspect that you have to physically touch the record, which is just uh, the finishing touch, if you will, to the experience of having an analog experience. I recommend this because I listen to a lot of music, and when I'm cleaning or when I'm doing activities, this morning I listened to some records and wrapped some Christmas gifts and cleaned up a little bit and just had it in the background as I went about my morning, and it was so refreshing. I didn't have to think about skipping songs or what was playing next or if I liked the song or I didn't. I just listened to the record. Point number two, board games. I have been getting into board games over the last few months, and I was gonna call this like a dopamine detox. episode, but I really feel like you get a lot of dopamine out of, well, listening to music for one, and playing board games is a huge dopamine hit. Playing games in general is a huge dopamine hit for me. That's very challenging to learn for one. So it really it challenges and works those problem solving muscles and your attention. So your awareness levels go up, especially the first few times that you're playing the game. It's a novel experience. You can share that experience with friends and family if you choose to. And it's a way to get off of our screens. I play a lot of games on the computer or the Xbox with my partner, and I have for years now. And this is something that I think lights me up even more because we're facing each other. We get to look at each other. We are it seems more intimate in a way. Like we are like physically facing each other, playing this game, watching each other's reactions. It's so much different, and we're not staring at a screen. Personally, screens kind of hurt my eyeballs, as we talked about, but I love it. And then there's also like physically, I guess if you're playing a game on the computer or Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, you're still using your hands, but it's in this kind of like repetitive, it can be like a repetitive motion. And so board games kind of challenge that your motor skills as well by moving the pieces and holding the cards and things like that. So it's still a very physical exercise. Number three, of course, I've got to touch on movements, intuitive movement. So I use a lot of videos when I move or I go to classes, and classes would count as analog too, but I love putting on my record, let's say, do a lot with music in the background, and just moving intuitively. I, as a yoga teacher, encourage everybody to move intuitively at least once a week. Move how your body is asking you to move. Stretch where you're feeling tight instead of doing a video and completing the moves step by step, the way someone's telling you to do it. Move intuitively. It's going to strengthen your intuition, your intimacy with yourself and your body, and it's going to help you know your body's signals so much more. So that's my little yoga teacher spiel. And it also brings you into the present like nothing else. There are so many benefits to moving intuitively versus just watching someone. And I use videos almost every day, you guys, so I get it. I love the experience of being guided by someone, but I also try to move intuitively every so often when I am just not feeling up to a video. So, on my analog days, I will move intuitively. Number four, I feel like this one's an obvious one, but I included it anyway. Reading books, holding the physical book and reading it. Reading books is fantastic. You get to learn new words. You get to, whether you're reading on nonfiction or fiction. Also, the eye movement of reading books. So, if you're familiar with like EMDR or like even like Bella Physics, the research, but behind like eye movement related to reading, I think it's actually therapeutic, and they say it really reduces your stress levels. And I think personally, I don't know if this is like has been studied, I hope it has. I think it repairs and can repair the damage that looking at screens can do to your eyes, because when you're looking at screens, your eyes are almost, I don't know, I'm not a neuroscientist or I guess a eye scientist, but I think it holds your eyes in these locked kind of positions, singular positions for extended periods of time. Okay, obviously. But when you're moving your eyes across the midline of the brain, you're creating more connections in your brain. Gosh, that was a hard one to think through. Okay. Guys, start a podcast because it's going to challenge the way you articulate yourself. Okay, number 5, journal. Journal, journal, journal. Handwriting. We've all the podcast, every podcaster in the world is talking about how handwriting, journaling is so much better because handwriting is better than typing. It is better for your brain. You can also work on your handwriting. Mine's pretty sloppy. I don't really care at this point in life, but I used to really care about what my handwriting looked like. Other people used to care about what my handwriting looked like. Suddenly everybody has bad handwriting in adulthood. But yes, handwriting is so much better than typing for your brain. It's also a great hobby to learn more about yourself, to track your feelings. If you are new to journaling, I would recommend starting with journal prompts because sometimes it's hard to know what to journal about. I just sometimes like to journal about my feelings. I journal a lot more when I'm stressed or sad. I like to journal more so than when I'm happy because when I'm happy, I'm usually just vibing. But having a consistent journal practice and reflecting on various aspects of life has a million benefits. And there are definitely podcast episodes, entire podcast episodes dedicated to that. I know Fernanda Ramirez just came out with one. So you can go listen to that when you're done with this one. Number 6, I put cooking. Cooking is so much fun. Using your hands, taking pride in creating something practical with your own hands, with your own mind, maybe even cooking without using a recipe or cooking from a cookbook. Oh my gosh. How analog is that? How 1990s is cooking from a cookbook? Cooking is one of my favorite things. I just had to put it down. And then number 7, I said, this is challenging, you guys. Nature walks with no sound. Normally, I take my headphones on my nature walks, but going on a walk with no sound is actually really challenging. Sometimes I'll bring my headphones just as like a life jacket, if you will, because I'm afraid of my own thoughts sometimes. And if I do get into like a really bad thought spiral, I will put on my headphones and like listen to a podcast or something. But a lot of times I feel much better if I am just fully present on my nature walks, listening to the sound of the birds and the bugs and feeling the wind and just being really present with all sensations. It's an amazing way to connect with divinity and with source or God or whatever you choose to call that experience. And it's very uplifting, fantastic for the nervous system, and there are a lot of benefits to listening to things like birdsong and the sounds of nature while you're in it. So go experience that on your analog day. Some of these are going to rewire your brain, and rewiring your brain can be really uncomfortable sometimes. So sit with the uncomfortability, be okay with that. Try it a few times, try it several times. Repetition will create these new normals for you, and soon you will be just as over scrolling as I am and ready to engage in the real physical reality. Once again, let's make the last half of 2020s the new 1990s. The 90s were great. I'm just saying. I'm a 90s baby. Okay. Thank you guys for listening so much, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.